Hey everyone, welcome to another RealmSmith painting tutorial. This time around, we'll be following our adventurers over to Waterdeep, where they'll be visiting the legendary Yawning Portal Inn. For that, I needed a really killer tavern furniture set for the tap room in the inn, and so I picked up the Rusty Dragon Inn from WizKids Deep Cuts line. I painted it up, going to show you some simple techniques of how we got it done. Strap in, here we go. Alright, the first step here was actually to prep the miniatures before I painted them. And first step in prepping them is actually to straighten out some of the pieces that came a little warped in the package. So I just put them in some hot water and then held them in position in my hand until they cooled in the right position. This doesn't always work 100%, but it definitely makes it better. Now for this tutorial, we'll be using all Citadel paints from the Games Workshop Citadel line. I started off with some watered down SCRAG brown, and I just found that it really kind of almost works like a wash where it tints the white primer and kind of gives some nice depth. We also used SCRAG brown here for the little barrel that comes in the set as well. SCRAG brown is a layer paint, which means it's best for layering and shading and adding highlights and midtones. And we're just going to go around the model here and fill it in. And we also did the same for the barrel. Once we had base coated the deepest areas, we started with the next color, which was MOURNFANG brown. This is a Citadel base paint, which is a lot thicker than the SCRAG brown and goes on really nice and smooth. Basically, we just went around the entire mini and blocked in that darker area. On the larger panels of the furniture, I actually took more of a different approach. I approached it more like wood stain, where the streaks that were left by the brush with long strokes added to the wood effect. I then switched over to a Citadel layer brush just so I could get a bit more control in some of the tighter, more detailed areas. With all the base coating done, I then went across all the pieces and gave them a liberal wash with Agrax Earthshade. Once the washes were dry, I then went in and dry brushed Tau Light Ochre over all the pieces. And here I'm just catching the uppermost areas, especially the corners and the edges that would catch the light the most. I went for kind of an antique, kind of worn approach for this whole set. Again, with dry brushing, basically you're loading your brush up and then you're wiping most of it off on a napkin or a piece of paper towel or even a piece of paper so that very little pigment is going on while you brush back and forth. I then applied the same technique to the barrel. Then you'll see when I moved on to the shelving unit, again, just dry brushing that dragon so you're catching the uppermost areas where light would catch. And then moving on to the corners, along the sides. And you also want to make sure that you catch every shelf, as well as the wood grain on the top side of each one of the shelves. Now the next step was to add some finishing touches. First, what we did is we painted in the black bands on the barrel with Abaddon Black, which is a base paint again. To finish up the bands on the barrel, we actually used one of Citadel's dry paints, and it actually comes kind of dry in the paint can itself. And so basically what I'm doing here is I'm taking a little bit of it, wiping a lot of it off on my brush, and then I'm just going to dry brush some NECRON compound onto the bands, just to give it a bit more of an metallic kind of look. Then I'm going to go ahead and use the exact same technique on the spout on the smaller keg. As well as on the bands, but here you have to be really careful not to get that NECRON compound on the wood color. A really cool feature to this set is actually the kind of clear acrylic bottles that come with it that you can add to the shelves. I started off with some MOOT green. What I'm doing here is I'm painting it on the front and on the bottom so that you're getting the reflection of the color all inside each individual bottle. Then as well some Temple Guard blue. You're going to want to make sure that you water these down just enough as well, so they're not too opaque. We then moved on to some SCRAG brown, and we did most of the bottles in this color, which kind of represent a dark liquor sort of shade. I also used SCRAG brown to paint some corks in the top of the bottles. We also threw in some red shades. Earlier we used a little bit of a Mephiston red on the end bottle, and then in the middle here we added some KHORNE red, which is more of kind of a wine color. Once that was done, we used some USHABTI bone to paint on some labels. For these fine details, I'm using the Citadel Artificer layer brush. Then all the bottles got a decent wash of Agrax Earthshade. You want to make sure that you don't overdo it here so that you're not obscuring the colors, but that you are adding some depth in between the bottles. And here's one last look at the final product. Really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Make sure that you check out episode 5 of our live gameplay session where we'll be featuring this tavern set around the table with my buddies playing good old D&D. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, as well as like and follow us on Facebook. We often do painting tutorials live for you guys where we can chat and answer your questions as we go. Take care, we'll see you soon.